I'm Sam.
And this is Gabe.
And this is Coaster Wars.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Coaster Wars podcast, where today we are talking about coasters that might kill you.
Absolutely. I will say this, roller coasters have to go through all kinds of inspections and, safety protocols and stuff, but it does not always, there are some coasters out there that you're like, should this maybe really be operating?
Yeah, it's, sometimes it has to do with just lack of maintenance. Sometimes it has to do with just the stylistic version of a coaster.
Mm-hmm.
I think both these coasters kind of fit that description.
Yes.
I think, too, it's also... I think these coasters were older. They're, some of it's the age of these coasters, too. Because, my coasters and... Let's see. I don't know if it says on here. Oh, 2001. And then your
mine's
coaster's
2002.
2002. Yeah, so they were both pretty old coasters. At least for the ride model.
Exactly. So, but I will say this, they're still both pretty fun coasters, and I'm glad I've gotten to ride on both coasters, so I'll give them that.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I mean, if you want to call them fun. Slightly sketchy,
Well, we talk about this isn't what we're covering today, but we was talking about American Eagle and how it's like, we always joke, it's fun because you feel like you might actually die on the dang thing. So it just ramps up the adrenaline factor. It makes it a little bit more exciting.
Yeah, that's definitely true. They are very exciting roller coasters.
Yeah. With that, why don't you actually introduce our fighters today?
In the blue corner, standing at a max height of 115 feet and reaching a top speed of 50 miles per hour. Hailing from the city of Washington, D.C. and the Vekoma Gym, it is Batwing. In the red corner, standing at a max height of 106 feet and reaching a top speed of 51 miles per hour. Hailing from the hills of Georgia and the B&M Gym, it is Superman, the ultimate fly. Let the fight begin.
Yes, this actually, so when Gabe came up with this category, this was the first one that popped into my head, and I did not realize until I had written it down that we had both picked flying coasters of all things.
Yes.
I don't know if that's something to be said about the safety of these things.
I don't think it's necessarily that. I think we just picked two of the worst examples of flying coasters is really what it comes down to, because my coaster, I'm bringing Batwing. Obviously, that is the coaster I picked from Six Flags America. I also got to ride Nighthawk before that closed down. And in my opinion, that felt like a lot safer roller coaster.
Okay.
It felt like it was more taken care of. There wasn't just grease and lube all over the random spots on the track. And it just visually looked more appealing too. I think it must have been repainted at some point.
Okay.
Where Batwing definitely had not been. And also you could definitely tell that they were holding the train together on that thing with duct tape and bubble gum. Just the sounds that thing made. It was just, it was a very sketchy ride experience. I actually loved Batwing. I love the Vekoma Flying Dutchman models. I'm really sad that they're no longer in existence.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it was definitely a sketchy ride experience on that one.
Well, Superman Ultimate Flight. So this we're talking about specifically the one at Six Flags over Georgia, because there are two clones of this ride. This is the first of them built, and we've ridden all three of them, and this one was definitely the sketchiest. And I think with that we can kind of chalk it up to it being the oldest, because the other flyers are at Six Flags parks, so I can't even just be like, well, it's just Six Flags maintenance. I think it's probably mostly just because it's the oldest. And then, the flying position offers a little bit more sketchiness when riding a roller coaster. which one do we want to talk about first, Gabe?
You know what? Let's dive into the one that's no longer in existence. Let's go into
Okay.
Batwing. So
Okay.
Batwing was built in 2001. But so I do know this is a real. Actually, you know what? This might be older than that because I do know this is a relocated ride.
Oh yeah, like
Ah,
half the roller
shoot.
coasters at Six Flags America.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to. Let's see. I'm trying to figure out where it came from.
I know. It usually says on RCDB and it doesn't.
Yeah, this time it doesn't. I'll have to because I do know it's a relocated ride. I'm pretty sure.
Well, Gabe's researching. Well, he's looking into that little tidbit.
That's my bad. It just dawned on my.
Yeah, a lot of the rides at Six Flags America were relocated rides. So Wonder Woman used to be was actually B&M's. It was like their first coaster. It used to be Iron Wolf at Six Flags Great America, and it used to be a stand-up roller coaster. And then they put, I think, either floorless or sit-down trains on it and moved it, and it became Wonder Woman. Raging Cajun. I don't know if it was still called that, but they had a spinning coaster, and that used to be Raging Cajun at Six Flags Great America. Wild Thing, we used to be, which is their oldest coaster. It was originally
You
opened in
know,
1917.
it might be. I
Is it
can't.
one of the originals? Is it actually just built there?
I think it might have been. I
Okay.
can't really find anything.
Saying that it was moved?
Yeah.
It very well could be.
Batwing is a clone. This is what it says. Batwing is a clone of the defunct Firehawk at Kings Island. So
Oh.
I maybe that's
It very well could have just originally been built there because I feel like Superman was probably like obviously that wasn't moved, but it was a clone. So
yeah. Okay, so I am yeah, so it sounds like it is the it is the well, it's not the
no.
original, but it does sound like it actually was built there. It
Okay.
was not a roller coaster that had been moved. So that is
Okay.
I was actually wrong on that. So it's actually just a clone of Firehawk from what I'm understanding.
Okay.
Oh, okay. So the one that was moved was the one at Geauga Lake.
Okay.
So it said Firehawk is a steel flying coaster located at Kings Island in Mason, Ohio. The ride originally operated at Geauga Lake as X-Flight from 2001 to 2006. This ride was a Flying Dutchman. Okay, yeah, I have my coasters wrong.
Okay. You had them
So
mixed
yeah,
up. It's all right.
so the one at Six Flags America is original to Six Flags America.
Mm-hmm.
The coaster that was at Kings Island that was a clone of or that this was a clone of was the one that was moved. That's
Okay.
why I was confused.
Yes.
Anyway, back to your regularly scheduled program.
Yes. So I think this is a really kind of a cool little bit of an opportunity to talk about different kinds of flying coasters, even though we are talking about kind of the most terrible versions of said flying coasters. But Batwing we got on basically because it was the last Vekoma Flying Dutchman, and Gabe really wanted to get me on one. And then on top of that, Six Flags America is now unfortunately closed. So we're like, we got to get there. We got to get on this. And it took us 2 different days of going to the park to try and get on this guy, which just expresses the absolute maintenance nightmare that this thing must have been. Because we went there and the first day, it was closed down all day, and we could see like the maintenance guy driving around trying to fix stuff. They were working in the station for a really long time. And then even the second day when we thought it might be open, it was closed when we got there. Thankfully it did open while we were still there. We got to ride it twice, but
I wrote it like
was
4 times, but
yeah, it did. So I was super sketched out. We had to ride it twice because the first time I was actually so terrified I did not pay attention to the ride.
yeah, it was definitely a memorable ride experience
Yeah.
trying to get on this coaster. Just the whole story of going there, spending basically a full day at the park trying to wait and get on it. Couldn't get on it. We leave. We're disappointed. Sam doesn't get to ride a Flying Dutchman. And we're like, you know what? We literally have to drive through Washington, D.C. on our way back. Why don't we swing in and check it out. Then I saw something on my phone that said it had reopened, and then we get there, then it's not open, and we're even disappointed again, and it's just like a whole thing. But like
Yeah.
when you get into the actual ride experience, personally, in my opinion, I preferred the Vekoma Flying Dutchman models over the Superman models.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that being said, I have not been on a newer B&M flyer, so like roller coasters like Tatsu or is it Manta in
I think
Florida?
so.
I haven't got to ride a custom layout one and like a newer with the because I'm sure they've changed little things here and there and updated the coaster a little bit because I always was not a huge fan of the Superman ones. But
Mm-hmm.
that's but between Batwing and Nighthawk, I felt like Nighthawk had a slightly better ride experience.
Mm-hmm.
That being said, I loved Batwing. I could have rode this thing over and over again, but we had to get going. But
Yeah, unfortunately. One other thing I'd like to point out before you get into a layout of this thing, just about the jankiness of it, is nothing to do with the actual ride experience. When we were getting in this, when you're getting in the station, it was a long line because I think were they only running one train?
yeah, they're only running one train, and they were definitely struggling with that train to get into dispatch. That's for
Yeah.
sure.
I remember the restraint on this guy was literally almost like a 5-point harness, and it had these like big metal clips, and they were not opening when you were getting off the ride. And we saw the ride operators, you literally had to like smack it with the heel of your hand to get the stinking restraint to release. So it was like, part of me was like, okay, it gives me confidence it's not gonna like magically come apart while I'm riding this ride. But then you're in the station trying to get out of the train and it freaking won't even release. And it just made the loading process slightly a bit longer. But at the same time, it also made me feel like smart because, of course, it's 4-person rows. Me and Gabe are only 2 people. We get paired with another 2 people. I could go over and smack their hardest and help them get out.
Yeah, it was just one of those things where like the restraints were sticking. They were having problems like making the train go to the like flying position too.
Yup.
So like they'd flip you down, and they'd flip you up, then they'd like try to fix something, and they'd flip you down again. And oh, we're going! They're dispatching us. Here we go. I hope I don't
Yep.
fall out of this damn thing. Like
Oh my
just
gosh.
I think it was just the combination of just like watching people struggling to get in and out of their restraints, and then
Yeah.
also the fact that the train would like not cooperate at all. I mean, like I said, though, they were running one train, and it was like held together with bubble gum, and like it was like
It was held together with duct tapes and prayers.
I give them credit because they really tried to keep this thing open absolutely
Yeah.
as long as possible. They were working on it 24/7. I mean, just to keep this thing with one train ops. And you know, whoever their maintenance team was, I give them a lot of credit because I'm sure they
Right.
had like zero budget. Like, we're not sticking any more money into this damn thing.
Yeah.
And well, obviously the other thing too is that they just couldn't get parts for these roller coasters anymore. That's kind of why the whole
Mm-hmm.
Nighthawk one shut down too. And I was just lucky enough to be able to get on both because both had their maintenance problems. But yeah, you know, kudos to their maintenance team. They did a really good job trying to keep this operating as long as possible for us coaster enthusiasts. But it's just kind of like one of those things where when you see that happening like live, like normally that's not something you see happening live in front of you. Like
Yes.
people
Yep.
actually working on the roller coaster. A lot of times it's all right, shut it down. You leave the station, you come back, they mess with a couple sensors, and the roller coaster's good again. No, they were actually like wrenching on stuff in the station as we were getting ready to ride the thing. Like
Yeah.
just
There was definitely a
yeah,
maintenance guy in overalls like standing by in the
yeah,
station.
yeah. Just watching the roller coaster dispatch every time, and it was
Yeah.
just like I said, it was something you don't normally see like that up close and personal while you're riding the roller coaster.
Yes. The other thing I have to point out before I forget, do you remember the lift hill? Like, I forgot what happened on the lift hill. Like, didn't it go slow or faster? Or it was really loud or something? Or
it was really loud, but it wouldn't maintain a speed. So like
okay.
it's like you lock into it and all of a sudden it would like take off and then it would like, it would feel like you're like not going to make it to the top of the lift hill.
Yeah.
Like it was too much work for that. Honestly, that's probably what ended up killing the roller coaster. Like when they finally had to shut it down, I bet it had to be that lift hill motor because it was not, it was struggling. It was on its last legs. Like it would go and like kind of like jerk the train back and forth a little bit as it's trying to like pull the train to the top of the lift hill.
The first
Like,
time we rode it, we seriously had questions about this thing cresting the top of the lift
yeah,
hill.
yeah, yes. Like it was like you held your breath. Like you were like,
Yeah.
are we gonna get to the top? I don't know.
Let's see. So yeah, this thing, but for like all of that, it just made it a hilarious ride experience, and we're like, this thing is kind of awesome.
Oh, for sure. I like I said, I love these Flying Dutchman models. They're very unique. They're the other thing too is we talk about both these roller coasters being flying models. They are completely different in every sense of the word.
Yes.
Like the ride experience is different. The way it flips you into the flying position is completely different. Like just the feeling of each coaster, the restraints. That's the other thing. I actually prefer the restraints on the Flying Dutchmans. I
Mm-hmm.
felt like they were actually more comfortable. Like I didn't feel like when we rode the Superman one, I was like getting stabbed in the ankle. Like I don't
Yep,
know.
it's the
I just
ankle restraints that do it for me too on the Superman ones. I don't like it.
yeah. But I just you know I like these Flying Dutch. Maybe I like the jankiness a little bit more than you do too. Like you
Yeah.
just find that a little more entertaining.
Then life threatening.
Yeah. But I suppose we can get into a layout here quick and then we'll have to transition into Superman.
Okay.
But all right, so Batwing. This start coaster starts with a transition. So basically, you get into the seat sitting upright, kind of leaning back a little bit, almost like a recliner. And then when they put you into the flying position, they actually lay you on your back. It's a very, very strange sensation because you're literally laying on your back with like your feet up above you in the roller coaster seat. So that's how they get you into that flying position. Then it starts with a 90-degree turn out of the station, sends you up into the struggling lift hill. When you get to the top, you kind of have a small pre-drop, which gets you ready to flip you over into the flying position. So how they have it listed on RCDB is they have it either called lie to fly or fly to lie, depending on what the transition is. And basically, it's just like a 180-degree barrel roll esque kind of element. And all it is it's flipping you from your back to your stomach. So then the track is on top of you, or vice versa. It is flipping you from your stomach to your back. So then the track is below you again. But with that, so you go through the first kind of transition there, the lying to flying transition, and you kind of do a 180-degree turn around at in this element, and then that's where you go down the first drop. So then the first drop sends you into kind of a banked flying turn. It gives you a really good feeling of like actual flying. And then you go through I think, let's see, they're calling it a horseshoe. I don't. It's an inversion. I know that,
Mm-hmm.
but it's kind of like oh, I think. Hold on. That's what they're calling the turn. I'm sorry. So the turn is what they're calling the horseshoe. So it's like a horseshoe turn shape
Okay.
element. And then you go into a fly to lie element, which basically flips you on your back. And this sends you into the vertical loop. So then as you exit the vertical loop, you then flip into another lie to fly element. And then this kind of does a 180-degree turn in the inversion, and then you kind of just glide around. You go through another banked turn to the right, another 180-degree banked turn to the right, and that sends you into an inline twist, which then sends you into a second inline twist. You then have a downward helix, which gives you a really good dose of positive G's before rolling into the last fly to lie. So then this flips you back on your back. and then you roll into the final breaks. So it's
Yeah.
not a very, very long layout. You're talking only about 3,000 feet of track, but it does have some really good flying moments, as well as one of my favorite moments of all time, the vertical loop. So on the B&M models, they don't have any vertical loops. You have what's called the pretzel loop, which is completely different. This is a traditional vertical loop on a flying coaster, and it is just such a weird feeling. I don't know if you agree with me on that, Sam,
Yes.
but like
No,
it
it's
is like no other roller coaster experience on the planet. Like just a
yes.
strange, like, because like normally when you go through a vertical loop, you're just in your seat the entire time. Where these kind of had like a moment of like, I almost want to say zero G, but it's not. Like it's just a weird, like, I don't know how to explain it.
I know. It has everything to do with how you're positioned because of the way this makes it a flying coaster. So it's like before you go into it at the bottom, you're literally on your back. So then as you're heading towards the top, it's almost like you're straight. And then at the top, you are like facing the ground. And then you dive back towards the ground and end up on your back. And I feel like it's probably the moment where you're diving back towards the ground that it like feels weird because you're probably shifting where your weight is in the train. So
Yeah, yeah,
even though there's
definitely.
G's involved, it's like you're kind of falling forward in your restraints almost. So that's probably where that moment, that's at least where I imagine the moment what you're talking about, where it kind of feels a
Yeah.
little bit
Well,
floaty.
it's going up and it's coming down. So like, because like
Yeah.
there's a moment like as you're going up where you're completely like vertical.
Yep.
And like you do kind of like go from, because like at one point you're like shoved into the backrest of the seat, because going into the inversion and exiting the inversion is very intense, very good positive G's.
Yes. Yeah.
And even the top of the loop has some like good positive G's too. But like as you're entering it too, even you're like shifting in your restraint. And then like you said, you go through the top of the loop and then you come back down and like your head is facing towards the ground. And it's just such a strange sensation. I absolutely, it was, when I rode Nighthawk for the first time and that had a vertical loop, I was like, whoa.
Mm-hmm.
And then I ended up riding Nighthawk like 5 or 6 times. And then same thing with this coaster. It's just, like I said, it's such a unique sensation. I've never felt it on another coaster. I that's the only thing I can say, and that's what made these so unique for me, was the vertical loop element. That being said, though, I mean this roller coaster layout as a whole was pretty good. The inline twists were a little rough,
Mm-hmm.
especially on this one. Batwing was very kind of like bumpy and like a little bit of head shake there. But I always liked the flying turns and stuff,
Yeah.
and just, it made you feel like you were flying. I like the helix at the end too, was very good. Positive G's really really pushed you into the restraint. So that was the other thing too, is like when you got positive G's, you're getting pushed into the restraint, not the seat, and that's another strange kind of like sensation with these
Yeah.
flying coasters, and that's for all of the flying coasters.
Yes.
Um, but yeah, that it was Batwing. It was a
All
great
right.
great coaster. I'm sad it's gone.
Yeah, it is kind of sad, especially since like all of these, you can't even just like ride a similar one. You
Yeah.
literally can't anymore, unfortunately. So with that, let's get into Superman Ultimate Flight.
Yes.
So this is a B&M flying coaster that was built in 2002 at Six Flags Over Georgia. And looking it up, doing research, this was the first flying coaster in the U.S., not in general. And I should preface this, a B&M flying coaster. So this was the first B&M flying coaster in the U.S. It was followed by two clones, one at Six Flags Great America and one at Six Flags Great Adventure. And this is actually kind of fun because me and you, Gabe, have ridden all three of these.
Yes. The one thing I will say right away, the one at Six Flags Over Georgia, once you see this coaster on its plot of land, it makes the rest of them make a lot more sense.
Yes. Yes, it
Cuz like
does.
cuz like he just kind of like when you ride the other two, where's the other one at? At Great Adventure, right?
Yep. Yep.
So like when you first walk up to the Great Adventure or the Great America one, they're both parking lot coasters, and you just kind of look at the layout and you're like, it doesn't really, like, why
Yeah.
why did they design this the way they did? Like, it just doesn't really make. Well, it's because they're clones. They're just based off the one in Georgia. And once you see the one in Georgia on his plot of land, you're like, oh, I get
Yeah.
it now.
Makes a lot more sense. So, and then also, fun fact, this introduced the US to the pretzel loop, which is a caveat of these flying
Oh,
coasters. So,
yes, definitely.
with the safety issues on this guy,
No,
the
okay. But is this the one where we had to get out of the train?
did we have to get out of the train?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Because, so what, at least from what I remember, we were in it, in the restraints, in the train, and they couldn't get either mine or yours to lock.
See, I didn't think it was our seats. I thought it was
Oh,
someone in
that's
our
right. It was
row.
next to us. It was next to
Yep.
us. You're right. You're 100% right.
Yep.
They got out of the train. We still rode it.
Yeah.
That's right. Okay,
Yes.
yes. Because I think what they did is when we came back, they ended up closing down the one seat. Is
Yeah.
what it was.
That they totally did. They put the little thingy-mabobber, the little sign on it.
Okay. Yeah. Now I remember. I'll let you tell that story because that's pretty fucking hilarious.
Yeah, we literally, I think it was the first time we rode it. I don't know that we rode this multiple times, did we?
We rode it twice because we rode it at because we were doing like our loop to get every credit.
Yep.
And then we came back and rode it a second time. I know we rode it a second time. It was at night too.
Oh, okay. So the seat issue, literally, as Gabe has described, we partnered with 2 other people because these trains seat 4 people in a row. And we were getting in, and you have to get the green light, and B&M ones kind of squish you in a little bit, but the guy was not a big guy, so we knew that wasn't the issue. That's the thing,
no
is like
he was a really skinny, like,
yeah, he was a skinny, gangly, like, teenager kid, honestly. So we're looking, and the operator came by to check, and he was like looking at whatever screen they look at to get the green light, and he like, it was so funny, he would like press on it, and then he'd look back, and then he'd look back and press on it again, and look back, and then he'd look back and press on it again, and then look back, and it wasn't working. So then they released everybody, I'm pretty sure, and had us re-strap down. And then when that didn't work, he had to just get out of the train and left us in the train because we were green lighted. And we were good to go. And we're like, oh, okay.
It was just one of those moments where you just like kind of like look at each other and you're like, did that really just happen? And are we still really going to ride this thing? Like, what? Especially like on a flyer, because your restraint, especially on the B&M flyers, B&M flyers, your restraint is everything. Like, that is what is holding you in the train, and you are laying against the restraint. You are not on the seat. You're not in, like, you can't even like hold yourself in the train if this restraint fails. Like, you are falling out of the thing. So like, just to watch that whole situation happen, and then you're like, are we still doing this? All right, here we go. It's just another one of those moments where you're like, okay, well, we're definitely questioning this one.
What was even more great, though, is like, I believe this all happened on our first time through, and then to add to the whole seat thing was the flip issue. So the way that the B&M ones work is, I don't know if we said this about the Flying Dutchman. So the Flying Dutchman ones, you're kind of in a slightly seated back position, and then you tilt backwards to literally lay down on your back. With the B&M ones, you're in a seated position, and then it flips up so that you're on your stomach facing down. And this one flipped. We call it flipping. It flipped. And then they had to lower it back down and then re-flip us. And then they sent us. And we're like, okay, that's a thing.
Right, if you say so.
Yeah. So it was just, we're like, wow, okay, that was great. Especially because it doesn't happen on the other 2 flyers that we've ridden.
Yeah.
So we're just this.
The one at Great America, it happens occasionally. Like maybe once or twice while you're there if you ride it multiple times, maybe not at all. Like, this one was doing it regularly, where they had to like re-flip you into the flying position. Like, like almost every time they tried to dispatch a train, they had to like redo it.
So that was definitely sketchy as hell.
Yes.
But honestly, it was very fun to ride. We although we've never been a big fan of the B&M Flyers, they are still fun coasters to ride. I will give them that. And it is of course a unique experience to be flying on a roller coaster, and it was both of ours first experience with any kind of flying coaster. And then on top of that, the pretzel loop is usually pretty good. It's pretty
Oh,
intense. It
for
gives you
sure.
some good
I
cheese.
definitely like the Georgia one more because of the
Yes.
way the layout is designed. So it's kind of built up on a hill.
Yep.
And what they do is like certain points on the coaster because of this get very, very, very close to the terrain and make the speed feel more intense. But then
Mm-hmm.
some of like the flying turn moments make a lot more sense because they're actually way up in the air because of the way the
Yes.
elevation of the coaster flows. So like, because like the ones that the clones, the ones at Great American Great Adventure, you don't get that flying feeling as much because you're closer to the actual like elevation of the ground because it's all flat. But like where this coaster like comes out and does some of the flying motions, you're actually really really high up in the air because of like the way the elevation flows, and it
Yep.
does give it a more unique feeling, I think.
Yes.
There's also a
Um
tunnel.
yes. uh the top height of this guy is 106 feet, and one of the flying moments that Gabe is talking about is the initial drop, which is 100 feet. But because you are looking down that hill, it feels a lot taller than
Oh,
that.
it does 100%.
So with that, let me get into a layout for you guys.
Yes.
So you have a slight left and a little slight right out of the station that brings you into that lift hill. And then you drop down that 100-foot curved drop to the right before popping up into the pretzel loop. So to explain the pretzel loop, the way I said it is that you head up almost like an airtime hill, and then at the top you end up diving towards the ground and looping all the way back around so that you end at the top and then twist out of being upside down. And the reason it's called a pretzel loop is if you go to the side and you see the track, you can literally look up pictures of it too. It actually looks exactly like a pretzel, like one of the big soft ones that you get from a ball game or something.
Yes. It makes me hungry.
Yeah, right? I can smell it cooking. So after that pretzel loop, you dip into a banked left turn that dives towards the ground before a banked right turn that kind of like dives. It's funny because these both dive down, but the right turn dives down the hill, so you got even more speed on this guy before another banked left turn that heads up and down before a straight piece through the tunnel that Gabe was talking about. And you have another banked right turn that sends you into an inline twist, which is the second inversion before those final breaks. So it really isn't a too complicated layout. It's not too long. That makes it sound short though, because it is 2,759 feet of track. So,
Well, according to that, it's almost 1,000 feet shorter than Batwing, though.
oh, okay.
Yeah. I mean, they're
So I
not they're not very long layouts. They're pretty much the pretzel loop plus some turns and stuff, and then an
yeah, I was gonna
inline twist
say
at the end. So they're not
the
they're not very long roller coasters by any
no.
means.
And the other thing too is when I say those banked turns, they're these like big sweeping banked turns to like kind of give you that feeling of flying, like you're turning this way and flowing. That's the other thing with even with like the jankiness of Batwing, with both these coasters, because they're trying to give you the feeling of flying, they're very like smooth, graceful coasters. They don't have too many whippy
Uh,
transitions
I
until
wouldn't
you get
I
into
wouldn't
like
I wouldn't
what?
call the pretzel loop graceful.
Well, no, I was just about to say until you get into their high G moments, that's when
Oh,
it starts
okay.
to get more intense and more whippy. And we said that about specifically the Over Georgia one. We don't know if it was because of where it sat and stuff, but it felt more intense than the other two
I
flyers.
think it just had to do with the terrain interactions.
Okay.
It has moments like the tunnel moment. That is
Yep.
like a dugout, like in the ground moment. You
Yes.
have some very good near misses, so it makes the coaster feel faster. And like I said, the flying turn moments are way up above the ground, so it makes that feeling a little more intense and a little more thrilling. So like I think it just has to do with the terrain interactions and being in its plot of land where it was designed to be built on, and you could just tell from riding it and looking at it and viewing at it that it was built for that plot of land. It just makes more sense. Like the layout makes more sense. But because of that, it does make the coaster feel a little bit more intense, like placebo effect kind of, just because of the interactions with the terrain.
I also want to point out too, I think this is the only one that had a dual loading station. They weren't using it, were they?
No, they were not using it.
Yeah. But
so both coasters, actually, funny thing, both Batwing and this one had dual loading stations, and they didn't use them. So
no,
it must have been a big thing in the early 2000s to do dual loading stations.
It probably was,
or like on Millennium, where you have a load and unload station.
Yeah, I was just thinking
the new big thing
that came to my mind for some reason was Mr. Freeze. I was 98. That has a dual load station, but
yeah, but that's more out of necessity because of the shuttle coaster aspect. That's the only way they could run 2 trains on it.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Anyways, total side note, that popped into my head when we were talking about Batwing and how it was kept together with duct tape and prayers. I'm like, with Mr. Freeze, they had a whole nother train that they could kind of or not Mr. Freeze. Sorry, goodness gracious. I'm thinking of Batman and Robin that closed.
Oh.
But they had a whole nother train that they could kind of dismantle to keep the one side running.
Yeah. Well, I mean, so when I rode Nighthawk, they had one train.
Okay.
So I would assume they sent that train to Six Flags America to rob parts off of it. The problem is you're robbing parts off a train that's at the end of its service life to put on another train that's at the end of its service life.
Yeah.
So you're taking parts that aren't good parts and just hoping that they work better than the current parts you have.
Yeah.
So you know, you can only do so much at that point when you can't get brand new, good parts for the roller coaster anymore. That's what you have to do. And that's why it was probably as janky as what it was, is because, like I said, you're taking bad parts to replace parts that were worse.
Yeah. Yep.
So,
that makes sense.
But with that, we gotta pick a winner. Who's winning?
Yeah. Goodness gracious. I know which one you're gonna pick.
Yeah, so mine's Batwing. I love Batwing. I definitely always preferred them over the B&M Flyer prototype models, at least. Like I said, we need to get on some custom layout ones and really experience the B&M Flyer at its core. But anyway, Batwing. Oh, I love this thing. I could have sat on this thing all day if Sam let me. Like, it's just so much fun. I love the vertical loop. I actually prefer some coasters that seem a little more sketchy. It's definitely one of the... If we had a list of top 10 sketchiest roller coasters, I think Batwing would be at number 1, honestly.
Yeah.
And, so that's the one I'm picking. Batwing.
I think I'm going to actually go with Batwing too, because same thing. I've never been a huge fan of the B&M Flyers, and the one at Over Georgia is definitely better. But I think I like the uniqueness of the position that Batwing puts you in. And it makes me wish that I could have ridden this guy when it opened or gotten on Nighthawk.
Yes, for sure. Nighthawk was definitely the better example of the two. Now, don't get me wrong, they were both kind of, at the end of their service life. But Nighthawk was just smoother. Just visually it was more appealing. I also loved the effect of flying over the pond area at Carowinds. That was an enhancement because you were actually flying over water. So if I had to pick between Batwing and Nighthawk, I'd definitely take Nighthawk. It also just seemed to flow a little bit better. I don't know. They're very similar coasters. The layouts are very similar, but it just seemed to flow a little bit better than Batwing. Maybe just because Batwing was so janky, but yeah. So
with that, do we have any idea what we're doing with our schedule?
Honestly, I haven't even looked at it yet.
Okay.
I think, let's see, where are we at? Episode 12. I think episode 13, though, is definitely going to be one that we're going to pull.
Okay.
So I think I'm going to move up episode 14.
I was going to say,
hilarious episode.
Actually, and right after doing coasters that make you question safety policies is actually a great a great idea. So I was going to say, we just did a special episode, so our next episode is going to definitely be a battles episode.
Yes.
So, sure. And then after that, we have another special episode of Question Everything on Roller Coaster Lingo, where Gabe's going to question me, and he said he's going to try hard to do some questions. So
I am. So I have an idea, and I'm going to consult our mother and see if she has anything, like if we say anything and she's like, what does that mean? Because
I should ask some people at work too.
You should too. And like, just kind of like get some ideas rolling. That way, like, and I have some ideas too of my own, but well, I think I want to do that episode. It might not be a full hour long special. No. It might, just because that's a simpler one. I might just start throwing random questions at you just to see what happens. But
oh gosh. Oh jeez.
Just to throw a curveball in there every once in a while. But yeah, I definitely want to do that episode. I think that is definitely on the docket. And I think episode 15, Beyond Vertical Drops, those are 2 fun coasters. How could we not talk about them?
I know.
So I think it'll be the last 3 that I think 2 of those are probably going for sure. And then we might I think we're going to move up our season finale a little bit too.
Okay.
End a little sooner, just so. I mean, we're heading into March or April now. In May I'll have the camper out and stuff, and just to kind of get a nice clean end to the season. I think I'll look at some of the dates and stuff, and we'll move some stuff up. So
okay.
And then unfortunately, the aerodynamics episode, Coasters 101, I think is also going to have to wait for next season.
That's all right. We'll get there eventually. And honestly, we did just do a Coasters 101 on a roller coaster manufacturer. So we can save that for next season.
Yeah, besides, we're going to something to look forward to.
Exactly. Well, not to mention, we love Aero a lot. So we're going to want to do justice to that episode.
For sure. For sure.
All right. With that, everybody, thank you so much for listening this week, and join us next week for Terrible Woodies.
And I hope you all have a great day.